This is Betsy Balling. For those of you who don't know her, she is one of the vice principals at the high school. And I know we really appreciate you coming back this spring and doing part 2 of your talk for us. I know that it's just such an important topic this year, more so than ever. So we really appreciate your time and the time of your team that is all here. I saw Jenny hop on, but I don't know who else is here from your team. So I'll let you do the intros for them. So thank you again.
Oh, great. Thank you. And it's so nice to be here. And I appreciate that introduction, but it is without this team, this presentation wouldn't go as well as it will. I will tell you that right now. I'm so thankful to all of them. I have told them time and time again. And I just wanted to say a few words before we got started. So before I begin, I want to thank the PTSA for sponsoring this event and the many people who had a hand in contributing to the content of the presentation, including the K-12 mental health staff and our district wellness committee. This is the second presentation on supporting student mental health that we have done this year, and I can't believe we only have a quarter of the year to go. We know that families are working hard to support the mental health of our students, and the pandemic continues to be a stressor for everyone. I do want to say, however, that there is hope. At the time of our first presentation in December, no one had been vaccinated, and now many people, including students age 16 and older, have the opportunity to get the vaccine. Also exciting is that our K-5 students here in Brighton will be returning to school 5 days a week, face-to-face, starting on Monday, April 19th. And hopefully our 6-12 students will be able to do so in the very near future. So there's a lot to celebrate. As with any transition, however, there is stress. Whether your child will be going from hybrid to 5 days a week, face-to-face, remote to 5 days a week, hybrid to remote, or they are remaining remote learners, we want to address some of the issues that could affect your children and offer ways to support them and also support you. Representatives from the district mental health team will present for about 25 minutes, and then we will be opening it up for questions. Please know we are here to offer our support, and hopefully you will find our hour together to be both validating and informative. Throughout the presentation, please put your questions in the chat and they will be addressed by our panel in the latter part of the program. And at this point, I would like to introduce our mental health staff who will be participating this evening. And if you just want to give a quick wave, Mrs. Kimberly Ball, who is a counselor at CRPS, Mrs. Holly Giuliano, counselor at BHS, Mrs. Victoria Mosetti, TCMS psychologist, Mrs. Marguerite Opet, FRES counselor, and Mrs. Jenny Vigiani, BHS counselor, and she will be monitoring our chat tonight. So with all of that said, we are going to be started. Thank you so much for being here with us, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. So I'm going to kick things off, and I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'll be advancing the slides for our group tonight. So the silver lining. Students have learned more about germs and germ transmission than they ever wanted to know. I oversee the nurses, and I have learned more about germs than I ever wanted to know. I think that, you know, there are so many things and so many different diseases and things out there that have been mitigated because people are washing their hands, they're using hand sanitizers, they're wearing their masks. I know the flu was way down this year, strep was way down this year. And so those are all really good things, and hopefully some of those habits will continue. We've learned the importance of being adaptable. I know that with parents, with teachers, with administrators, with students, we have asked people to shift and change and move and do things so much differently this year. We've done it at the drop of a hat and everyone has responded. It has not been easy, but we have done it and we have done it together. You've also adjusted your schedules at home. Holidays have looked different. And when we look back on this, I think it's going to be a time of reflection, because people have really done some amazing things that I don't think we ever would have thought we had to do if COVID hadn't happened. We have a greater appreciation, I would like to say, for some of the little things that we often take for granted. Movies, play dates, hugs, handshakes. I miss a lot of those things, and I know that your kids and your families do too. We've learned that with perseverance and working together, people can get through difficult situations. And this is one of the most difficult times in our history, and we have done this together. And it's really amazing to see what people can do when they work together. And then we've also had extra focus on self-care strategies for dealing with stressful situations. I know that in the beginning of this, people weren't getting out, they weren't moving. Mental health was being affected, and we were a little bit paralyzed by that. I think that as we've gone through the pandemic, different companies have come out with ways that people can exercise, they can participate in things. I know on our district level, we have put together a wellness suite, which really was inspired by another district, so that families can find different ways to, get out their stress, to do things that are healthy. They provide healthy outlets. And so that's what we have started to do more and more. And I hope that even after the pandemic, people continue to practice these self-care strategies. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our friends at Council Rock and Frez.
Thank you, Betsy.
Sure.
So as Betsy mentioned earlier, I'm Marguerite Opet, and I'm a school counselor at French Road. And with me today is Kimberly Ball from Council Rock. And we're going to start by talking about how some of these changes and with the reopening and some of the challenges for students have affected our youngest learners. So what we'll do is the first slide, we'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges that the kids have been facing. And then the second slide, we'll talk about things that we've put into place and are planning for the remainder of the school year to help our kids with those things. So one of the first things, as far as kids who are returning to French Road for full time, as you know, Betsy mentioned earlier, we're super excited that K-5 is going to be able to come in person 5 days a week. So one of the challenges is it will be the first time for some of our students to even be in the buildings, in our buildings. So that relates to our kindergartners, kids who are transferring from different districts, as well as some of our kids who have just been remote all year in the transition to French Road. So that's going to be something that's new for the kids, just being in a whole different environment, in a building environment. And it really is kind of like day one, opening day all over again. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge for them. Stamina, doing the hybrid and all remote learning, there's just been a different kind of a schedule with their work and their schoolwork and all of that. So getting used to just the stamina of a full school day. And I've been talking to parents a little bit about that. When you think about the beginning weeks of school, a lot of times our kids are very tired when they come home. They're getting used to being at school and the mental energy that it takes to do the academics and to deal with the social. So it will take some time for them to build that stamina. And we need to be mindful that kids may come home feeling tired. They may come home giving you the generic answer, how was school? Fine. What'd you learn? Nothing, that sort of thing. So that's going to take some time for them to build that stamina again of going to school 5 days a week. Increased anxiety and depression. We have found that through this whole pandemic, even kids sometimes who have not shown anxiety in the past, that has started to come up a little bit more with them. And at this age group, anxiety can look a little bit different, and depression, they can both look a little bit different. So it's not always kind of the sadness or the nervous feelings. We might see kids getting cranky, a little more crankiness. We might see disruption in their sleep patterns or eating, just not being able to concentrate enough. So those are kind of signs that, there is more stress and anxiousness for them. So, we'll talk a little bit, like I said, the next slide, what we're going to do about that. But definitely know that the staff at school, teachers and counselors are going to be very mindful of all of this and monitoring how kids are doing, and really have that communication with home so that we can help them through that. Along with that is separation anxiety. So for some kids, being home alone a lot, or being home with parents and with family a lot, it's going to be different going to school, those who are returning for 5 days a week. So there might be some separation anxiety. I saw that with my pets too. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but we all are getting used to kind of hunkering down and being together a lot. So some of that may come up as well. And that's something that at school, we definitely help with that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Then there's the establishing and reestablishing connections with teachers and other kids. Our remote teachers have been wonderful about really keeping that community spirit with kids, about building in relationships with kids. So some of our kids who are coming back to the building are going to be transitioning to new teachers. So it's going to be, again, that beginning of the year thing where they're going to be just learning about different styles of different teachers, seeing friends from the past, getting to know new friends and things like that. So that'll be something that we'll be working on. And then in the increased and different kind of workload. So again, that goes kind of builds with the stamina and just getting used to that, the rigor of being at school 5 days a week and adapting to a new schedule. So for a lot of our kids, they may have stayed up a little bit later. They may be getting up a little bit later in the morning, things like that. So kind of building into them that typical school routine again is going to be something that we're going to be working with. So if you want to go to the next slide. And I'll just start off with the first point, and then I'll have Kimberly Ball take over. So these are just some of the ways that we're going to support kids through this transition. As far as kids not being familiar with the building, we actually had our in-person open house today at Fres, which is very exciting. We had a lot of kids coming in just to see the building and just having that visual of where they're going to be and seeing the classroom and seeing the actual building, knowing a little bit more of the routine, where they're going to be coming in, things like that. Really, you could see that helped them with ease the transition a little bit, and they were all very excited, very enthusiastic. So it was great to see that at Fres. And Kimberly, I'll take over for
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback on just as far as getting in the physical space and seeing the building too. We have a little bit of a unique situation at Council Rock because even if they were in last year, the building looks completely different right now. So we're very aware of that, especially with our kiddos who maybe have been full remote and they're coming in to be in person, that they, even though they've been there before, this is now a brand new space. So offering out tours. So Matt Tappan, I know, has been providing some tours for families to be able to come in with their students and see what the building looks like now, and also make a connection with where their new classroom will be too. So as Marguerite mentioned, that transition from remote to in-person does come with a classroom switch too. So helping them learn that space is important and something that we're tuning into. Marguerite, I'll kind of flip back to you since that's a more Fres specific one there too.
Yeah, so we're also offering to all of our families phone consultations or Zoom. We're all getting very adept at Zoom this year, consultations with any of the counselors. So that can be before the transition. We're going to check in with families also after the transition. And this applies to not all of these really apply to not only people who are transitioning back to 5-day, but kids who are staying remote as well. So counseling staff, we're always open to doing phone consultations or Zooms with families. So you just reach out to your classroom counselor and they will set that up for you.
And then we also have on here, just want to point out the community building activities. So our teachers and staff are really going to dedicate a lot of time, that first chunk of time that the kids are back all together, to reestablish those norms and expectations of the classroom, almost kind of go back to a September where they would be doing a lot of getting to know you activities, taking extra time to go through the routines and expectations of the classroom, because some of those things are going to change now that there's an increased number of kids in there. Different peer groups are going to be mixed together in there that weren't together in the classroom before, only before on Zoom on their Wednesday Zooms. So I know our staff and our teachers are really thinking about what they can do to kind of go back to that expectation building and community building piece to make sure that all of those kids coming in together are feeling safe and comfortable in that room together. And then the next point here, the individual check-ins, that's something I think both of our buildings are going to be doing, especially for any of our kiddos who are coming into a new program. So they would have a new teacher, new peers all around, regardless of the cohorting, because they were coming from a full remote section. So we've got lists of who those families and kids are, and are going to be going through that transition, and are planning to touch base with them after some of the date. You know, they have an opportunity to go through a couple of days and see how things are, and then see if they have any questions or concerns at that point. Marguerite, is there anything else Pres specific?
Yeah, we're doing some peer buddies in the classroom too at Fres. So, you know, a buddy in the classroom who can kind of help them navigate the cafeteria, show them where the bathrooms are. Lockers are a huge thing at Fres. It's a very popular thing. So showing them where their locker is, how to use their lockers, stuff like that. So, and the other kids are super excited to have that leadership role. So that's another thing that we're doing. And then just, you know, the former teachers consulting with current teachers, just transferring information on kids, you know, specifics of where they are in the different units, kind of collaborating on some of that, and as well as just tips and things that work with different children too. So the teachers will definitely be in touch with each other.
Great. Now we're going to shift to 612.
Holly, do you want me to start? Want me to start, Holly?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay. All right. So I was taking some notes. I'm Victoria Mosetti. I'm the school psychologist at TCMS. I was taking some notes, listening to my colleagues at the younger grades. And I think it's so important that we really focus on our students' strengths here as well. They are so resilient. And I think we often forget with an impending transition, we always think doom and gloom, but our students are resilient and they have so many strengths that I really think it's important that we build upon. Now that we're reopening, what might some of our challenges be in the upper grades? Sleep patterns. We've definitely heard a lot about that in the middle school. Holly, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything. What we have been noticing at the middle school is that students will stay up all night on their cohort day so that they can sleep in the next day on their non-cohort day. We've been hearing that, and then the students will report to us, well, I don't have school on Monday and Thursday. Well, yes, you do. You do have school. It's still school. So their sleep patterns will be disrupted as well. Stamina, again, the increased stamina of coming back to school 5 days, waking up early, getting the routine. I think Marguerite mentioned it will be like September all over again, and getting, you know, off the schedule of sleeping in summer breaks. Additional challenges will be their work habits. And work completion, not having that necessary free time on their non-cohort days to get any work done, because they'll essentially be at school and have a full schedule. We will probably anticipate an increase in anxiety and depression at the 6 through 8 level, mainly around reestablishing their peer groups, reestablishing their friendships, who's in their classes, who wasn't in their classes, who has the same last name as them, who didn't have the same last name as them, and students really feeling that sense of anxiety of coming back, starting new, seeing all of the new things, that anticipatory anxiety. One thing that we also wanted to highlight, coming back 5 days, there is the anticipated New York State testing. It's the 20th and 21st, I think, or 21st and 22nd at TCMS. So we won't necessarily be 5 days by then. And I know that Holly can speak more to the AP exams as well, but that will be a change that we did not have last year, that some students will have to get adjusted to as well. And then the last one, Holly, I know that you can speak to that because of the age level, more so at the 9 through 12.
Yeah, sure. So we're still waiting for guidance from New York State regarding the Regents exams. We know there'll be 4 exams that are going to be offered, and we will be communicating out via Hall's Corner. So stay tuned for anyone in here who's 9-12. AP exams will start the first week of May. I think it's May 6th might be the first day. Those are still running as scheduled. So for any students who are in AP courses, hopefully this is not new information to parents of students who are in AP courses. Those will go on as scheduled. And then the end of the year exams are going to look a little different this year. We're really not having final exams in courses unless they're half-year courses. There may be some final projects and final papers, but some of that I think teachers are trying to be as flexible as they can to lighten some of that load. So kind of stay tuned for how that might look a little bit different this year for the end of the year.
Betsy, would you like, okay. So how we will continue to support our students, again, really building on their strengths and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. They've been so resilient coming back to school, coming back after breaks, and really highlighting that. At the middle school, we have our TCMS Strong mentors that will be planning on supporting our new students coming back or students back into the building. Staff will be also wearing Brighton gear or our TCMS Strong shirts as the students are welcomed back. We're hoping for a mini party, a mini celebration, some sort of mini orientation like we do on the first couple days of school. Staff will also be available to support students with lockers and schedule changes and handing out schedules and supporting students on which classrooms to go to and where to go. There will be a continued presence of faculty in the hallways to help support our students coming back. As always, the mental health staff and the counselors will always be available to the students as well when they transition and come back, and really be a strong presence to troubleshoot any issues that may arise as they come back.
I would just kind of piggyback on a couple quick things in there. Kim and Marguerite already mentioned this, but I think the big focus that we've been talking about at the 9 through 12 level is when everyone's coming back, the focus will continue to be on building that classroom community. We all do it a little bit differently because developmentally kids are doing different things when they're 7 years old than when they're 17 years old. But you know, teachers are already kind of working on resources and sharing resources. We have professional development built in to kind of assist with that. And like they're doing at the younger buildings, we also both have mentoring programs to support any of our students who may be brand new into our building. Either they moved into the district and went remote immediately. And in addition to that, the counselors are going to be high on radar for those kiddos too, just making sure that they're getting oriented to the building beyond what the mentors are able to provide. And I think lastly, just, you know, I think we're all talking about trying to have an increased presence in the building. So teachers are outside in the hallways during passing time. But I think, you know, like we do at the beginning of the year when it's sort of celebratory and everyone's so excited, we really want to try and mimic that positive energy. We lead with it. So, you know, we really want to kind of pass that along to the kids. Great. So I think moving on to the next slide, I think it's maybe Marguerite taking over, talking about supporting remote students, if I'm correct on that.
It's Kimberly.
Hey.
You're up.
This is me here. All right, so how we're going to continue providing support for our remote learners. So there's this section of kiddos who have been learning fully virtually through the year and are going to continue. So these adjustments and changes might not necessarily hit them in the same way that it will our hybrid kids who are coming in to be in school more days. So we have a couple of things planned, I know at Council Rock specifically, so I can go through that. I know that our teachers are planning some events here and there to be able to see the children in person, to kind of have them be a little bit more familiar with the building, those who have not been in the building. We do pop in on Zoom classes, provide Zoom counseling support, individual and group, which is fun this year. So those pieces will definitely continue through the Zoom format that we've been doing the beginning of the year. The change in focus will really be how do we then prepare these students who have been learning for a year and a half now, by the time things roll around to be transitioning to learning in person. So how can we support with the different expectations, kind of the environment wise, and what they've got, how they've gotten used to learning at home, and what will be different, and what sort of support they will really need through that sort of transition. So that's something that I'm always talking with parents about as I'm supporting a child via Zoom about anything social, emotional, or behaviorally. How can we kind of scaffold and support their independence with things? Because really, when we think about where they're going to be eventually, it's hopefully back in person full time. Whether that's now or that's next year, that transition is going to happen. So we can be really thoughtful about how that happens. There's been a lot of fun things along the way too. I know at Council Rock, Mr. Tappan always pushes out a morning announcement via Seesaw. So even if these kids have never been into Council Rock this year at all, they still hear the good morning. I mean, they're part of that community, so they're able to hear his enthusiastic good morning. Marguerite was saying that at Frez, they're doing some dance-offs and read-alongs with their remote learners as well, to kind of foster that community, and also just have the kids make connections with different people. They're used to seeing the same squares with faces all day long, their teacher, and then the rest of them. So the more of us that can kind of come in and out, and the more variety we can give them, we think that'll also help just kind of mix things up a little bit for them and get them used to the other people that are working in their building, when you think of that physical building. So there's a couple of things listed here. I don't know if the high school wants to talk about specifically what they're doing for that piece.
Oh, you want me to talk about it? Hello everybody, Jenny Vigiani. I had the task of managing the chat, which we thought was going to be arduous. However, I think I might be getting off the hook a little, so I feel a little bad not participating. So, it's hard to follow K-5 because they always have such fun things happening. And they get to talk about dance-offs and parties, etc. But we're continuing to support students remotely. Lance Mitchell and Kristen Hawhey will continue to reach out to the 9th and the 10th graders. BHS counselors are continuing to connect with the remote students regularly. And if you hear that, there's a student out there that we're not connecting with, we definitely want to make sure we do that. And Dr. Hall and the counselors continue to connect with remote students on Zoom every week. I don't know, Holly, did I miss anything?
No, sounds good. I would love to see a dance off with all the teenagers at the high school though.
Prom is coming up.
So I'll take care of this slide here. So what we want people to remember is, regardless of which learning model your child will finish the year in, it's important to remember these few things. Number one, it's going to take some time for students to acclimate to another change in their schedule. Remember, be patient, talk to them, listen to them. It's going to take a little bit, but they will get there. Have realistic academic expectations. I think that one of the things that would come up is that people would say, well, they're in school 2 days a week, so they go back, they're 5 days a week, they should be doing so much better. And that might be true, but it might take a little bit of time. Allow for that to happen. They have to reacclimate to a brand new schedule, seeing their friends. There's so much excitement going on. I think once everybody settles in, it's going to go really, really well. Like I said earlier, carve out some time to listen to your children about the schedule change, being fully back at school, maybe have a little bit more time at night to be talking about those things, really listen to what they're doing, reflect on what they're doing, and it'll be great to hear that excitement in their voices, I'm sure. Validate their feelings. The pandemic has been hard on everyone, especially the kids. I think that it's going to come out a little bit differently too with boys and with girls. There's been a lot out there on how the pandemic has affected girls so much, and they're going through all these different things. Sometimes I think that girls tend to talk about things a little bit more than boys do. And just because the boys aren't talking about it doesn't mean that they're not affected. So keep that in mind, and just keep listening. Acknowledge this is a major change for everybody. This is a change for students. It's a change for families. It's a change for staff. Everyone is doing their best. Let's have an attitude of gratitude that we are back, and then let's give it a week or so and let things work themselves out. And most of all, let's celebrate that we are back in school full time, that summer is just around the corner. You know, I can speak for the high school level, knowing that we have so many things slated for June. I don't know if I'm even going to be staying at my house, because I may as well just stay under one of Dr. Hall's tents. There's going to be so many events. We're so excited. I know that the other buildings are going to be having celebrations too. We have all gotten through this together, and we have a lot to be proud of. Oops, I'm sorry. Some additional resources. So we had this slide in our last presentation, but I think it's important to mention again. So if you feel that your child is experiencing anxiety or stress that is beyond what we call normative anxiety, make sure that you contact your physician. Just know what some of those signs are. If it seems out of the normal range for you, it's always good to reach out to a doctor. Lance Mitchell and Kristen Hawhey continue to be great resources across the district for all students. Lance Mitchell is a social worker, Kristen is a family navigator, and Kristen works in all buildings. Utilize the Wellness Suite. We worked really hard on that to put together some great resources for families. The link is right on the BCSD website, and we hope that you utilize it. Access mental health counselors and therapists. So you can use Genesee Mental Health, Jewish Family Service Counseling, which is at 12 Corners, Tree of Hope. And I also wanted to talk about youth mental health first aid. So youth mental health first aid teaches you how to identify, understand, and respond to signs of mental illness and substance use disorders in youth. There's a couple opportunities for this. One is May 10th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. or June 2nd and June 9th in 2 shorter stints. And if anyone wants more information on youth mental health first aid, please feel free to reach out to any one of us who are on this presentation tonight, and we would be happy to get you the information. And then there's anxiety groups to practice skills, peer support. Just know that the mental health professionals in our district are here for you, and we want to make sure that we're all getting through it together. And then I just wanted to say a special thank you to our panel tonight. Thanks all for taking time out of your busy schedules. It's amazing how fast this end of the year will go, and it's because there's so many things going on. I know you all have families, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'm going to open it so I can see everybody out there. And Jenny, it looks like we have some questions that have come through in the chat, and maybe we could address some of those.
Well,
are you not, maybe it's just me who's seeing them.
So Betsy, I'm wondering if I don't have access to
all right, so I am going to take a look here and see what we see. Oh, is everyone muted there? There we go. Let me just take a look. I think some of these chats were from the meeting that was before.
Does anybody, I mean, at this
I don't
point,
have anything in there.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask any of us? You certainly can unmute yourself. If you do, we'd be happy to answer your questions. Well, I guess that means we did a terrific job. So
we have a question. I do have a question. Hello. You can't see me because there's stuff happening here and it's inappropriate. However, my question is, with the increase in anxiety and stress, is there a way for especially the middle school age children who are full of raging hormones and craziness, because I've gone through it 3 times now, to have an actual recess time where they go outside, get some exercise, just get rompous and have a chance to just let out some of that energy, because it seems like this is the time of their development when they need the most just chance to let out their rumpus yelps, but they have the least opportunity?
Alona, I would say have your child come and find me and we will go outside and get all of our energy out.
Maybe they can have it be that they can, like during their win time, they're allowed to go outside.
So the biggest concern is supervision at the middle level, the middle-aged students. If they are able to get a pass to their win through a gym teacher, their physical education teacher, and have the opportunity to go outside and get energy out then, that's always a possibility. I know that our counseling groups, now that the weather's starting to get warmer, we're taking our students outside, we're going for walks, and we're running our counseling groups outside to get some of that energy out. But if your child would love to connect with me, I'm happy to go outside and get some of their energy out.
Tether them to a tree and let them run in a circle.
I won't do that.
No, I'm just saying it's a bad idea. Just spitballing here, just throwing stuff out there.
I completely understand where you're coming from. I do, and I understand the sentiment of that's the developmental age group of our students that do need to get that energy out.
Thanks so much.
Of course, you're welcome.
So I think we have a question to, Leslie writes, one tricky piece for us is the uncertainty about whether 6-12 will be allowed to go back to school. Could you share some advice on how to navigate this?
So the tricky piece probably is that it's not knowing, right? So we are waiting to see what happens with these cases. I know that, and I can speak for the high school level, and I think for the middle school too, we are all hoping that this will happen. And whenever we're having conversations with students, because I've got high school kids coming up to me every day thinking I know all the answers, saying, Miss Balling, are we going back? Are we going back? And I'm honest with them, but we remain hopeful. I know that Dr. McGowan is going to keep a close eye on this, and that every week there will be an update. But right now we just have to, keep some hope going with the kids, be honest with them, and continue to encourage them and let them know that they're doing a great job in the model that they're in, even though I know there are so many that want to come back 5 days a week, face to face, and end this year on a more normal note.
I think if I could, I have an 8th grader at TCMS and an 11th grader at Brighton High School. And the not knowing really is tricky, because some days it's, I can't wait, I want to, and other days it's, oh my God, I hope we don't, and that would be terrible. So we kind of have this pros and cons list going at home, and we've developed, what would be great about going back, what would be not so great about going back, what would be great about staying home, what would be not so great about, or staying in the hybrid model, I should say. And, it can get silly, and we add things, about sleeping in, we add things about, well, I get to see my friends that I haven't seen in over a year and the other cohort more. The 11th grader would love to see other young women from the opposite cohort. He's like, man, seeing the same girls for how many days? Yeah, I say that jokingly, of course, but so I think that can be really helpful, and for them to see that either situation offers, good things and, and things that they don't like so much. So that's just one idea from my house to your house.
Yeah, great point.
I have another little, just kind of a step away from that. So, as you're kind of talking through the pros and cons, I think dialogue about that is really good. And just a reminder that we're all, as parents of kids that are going through this, my daughter's in another district, the same scenarios. This is an opportunity really for us to model how we navigate ambiguity, because life is going to, continue to provide these types of situations throughout their life. So you know, when you're feeling anxious, you know, trying to manage that and model for them, whether that's going out and taking a walk around the block with the dog, whether that's, you know, hopping onto our wellness suite and doing some of those calming activities or some breathing activities. It's a really nice opportunity to sort of use that as a catalyst to practice strategies that they may otherwise not even try. So for what it's worth, I might get some daggers on that one, but I do it.
Thank you, Holly.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have any questions? That was a really good question, by the way. You have a whole group of counselors here, so we're really good with wait time.
Okay, I'll ask a question then, very
Go ahead
specific
then,
to
Sangeeta. Thank you.
specific to my senior. So how do you navigate the level of frustration and sort of disappointment that, you know, they've had since last March? It's the end of high school for them. They missed out on the end of junior year activities, the social piece, all of, you know, being the senior in the high school, not having a homecoming, prom and ball, bash and ball and banquet, although hopefully they're going to be able to have them, are going to look vastly different than what they were anticipating having, with all the restrictions that they're having, not having open campus, just not seeing their friends in the other cohort, feeling like, gosh, we led up to this moment being a senior. We missed out on everything for junior year. Now we're missing out on senior year. And then now to the point where they've kind of gotten into college and they're just throwing their hands up and they're like, I'm just done with this place. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to class. I don't want to go to school. They've lost their motivation because they've missed out on everything. And now they're feeling like, well, I already got into college. So why do I need to get up to go to gym tomorrow? So just that level of like frustration and apathy really is what it comes down to. So how do you keep them motivated for the last couple months or keep their, you know, spirits high?
Jenny, I'm going to ask you to tackle this because you did such a nice job with that other
Oh.
question.
Thank you.
I was
Yeah.
looking right at you, Jenny. You know that.
I know, and I was passing the buck, so.
Sangeeta, I feel for you, and having a niece and a nephew next door, one a senior and one a junior. I think it's just acknowledging that it's okay. You know, it's okay to be mad. We would be mad too. And then having some things and planning some very intentional things to look forward to. I'm trying to think of something specific. You know, things that you could do maybe, you know, with her group of friends, things you can do as a family, maybe something that you might be planning as a vacation.
Yep.
Or, you know, small things, daily small things like, you know what, if you know, I know you don't want to go, but after school, we're going to, you know, do this. Or just the one day at a time approach. I think that's happening for so many kids.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. And they're angry. I mean, so we're frustrated, but they're kind of angry.
Yeah.
And they feel like they've been robbed of their high school experience. And it can get to kids in ways that we did never anticipated, our happy kids that we never thought we would see them like this. And it's hard to see that and watch that happen and not know what to do. So I think sincerely saying, you know what, I would be mad too, but here's what we're going to do to try and make it fun and exciting and have things to look forward to. You know, Kaylin is a senior. My niece Theo graduated last year. And I watched that happen for both of them, you know, right next door. And I think that there were good days and there were bad days, and that's okay. And to know that if it does get to the point though, that where you are worried, that you do need to reach out and you know, not you personally, but if there's other, maybe, I don't know, maybe for your daughter, but that other people need to recognize that this is a different time and you may need an intervention to support your child for a period of time. I don't know if that helps. I don't have a great answer.
It does. And I think it's the entire senior class that's going through this. It's not a just me thing for sure. I know that the entire grade is going through it, but it's like you said, I think they feel robbed and they're angry
Yeah.
about it, right? So they kind of, when this happened last year, they thought, all right, well, we missed out on junior year, but it's okay because we'll have it next year.
Mhm.
And no one could have anticipated that a year later, 13 months later, we'd still be going through this. So
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and the hard
Awesome.
part
Thank
is
you.
too, is it's not just our seniors.
Right.
It is seniors
Everyone.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, we wonder what this is going to really do and mean for kids going forward, you know, because it was traumatizing. But that's not how high school was supposed to look for them, you know, and that's what happened. So I think that's great advice, Jenny. Get permission to feel.
I think, and can I just want to jump in because my daughter is actually a senior this year too. So you would think that having a counselor as a mom, things would be fine. No, but so, I mean, my expertise is more the younger ones at Fres, but I do think, you know, Jenny, what you're saying about acknowledging, because I think, you know, sometimes, and even as a counselor, we tend to put a happy spin on everything, but like, it's okay to acknowledge it. Yeah, like it does stink. Like this does, you know, you are going through something we didn't plan and all that. You know, we spend a lot of time in my house talking about what we can control, what we can't control. You know, so let's spend you know, we can't control all this. So let's spend our time on what we can control. And there is sort of like, Betsy, you mentioned this a little bit. That's what made me think to speak up about the bonding. Like I have noticed that her class and even like seniors in the community that don't go to her school and everything, there is sort of a bonding with all of them because they're going through this experience that really no other senior has ever been through, you know, for the entire year, having masks and all of that. So we're trying to capitalize on that too, on that kind of community bonding that they have. I mean, what a unique thing to go through that, you know, no one else has been through with each other. So I think that they've been the kids have been supporting each other with that a little bit too. So, but I was listening to all the advice too and like taking mental notes for myself because I'm going through this at my house.
I had 2 seniors last year. So my seniors, I had one that was nose to the grindstone, just get finished. And then he went to work every day. He'd finish his work by noon, and then he'd go to a job where he worked in food service every day from 3 to 9 o'clock. And he's like, I'm making money. Whereas the other child decided to just kind of like, let it all go. I'm like, you can't graduate high school with an average of a 13 in your class. You need to keep working, please. So there was the give up and get out kind of 2 sides of that coin that I had in my house. And I think coming from the other side now that they're both freshmen in college and at different schools, they did seem to come through with the group that they had that are freshmen with them from all over the country, that it does make a big difference that they all went through the same together. And they all, even no matter where they're from, everyone had the same experience of, I have to quarantine before I go to school. I have to quarantine before I come back from Thanksgiving. And they have that camaraderie that, like has been said, no other class is going to have, except for I think these 2. The last year's 2020 and 2021, I think these 2 groups of seniors are going to have something that is completely unique. We haven't seen it over 100 years. So from a mom who had twins graduate last year, it's the small group of their good friends that they can get together with and they feel safe around. Building things around that group made a huge difference in both of the twins. Huge difference.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really interesting perspective. We do have a question here from Robert. What is the staff feeling about vaccine rollout and the process of the community rolling through it?
Well, I'll speak for.
Go ahead, Jen.
The high school, and I guess that would be Holly on this call, but the staff is by and large feeling really grateful that their vaccine was available and that we were, you know, I guess second in line behind healthcare workers and some others. And we were really excited to get our vaccine, and we all went out pretty much within a week of each other and got it taken care of. And I would say that the district did a fantastic job of letting us know where they were, when they were available. You know, I mean, Dr. Hall was making announcements on the loudspeaker, letting us know, go, get on, go now. There's, you know, X number of vaccines available, you know, with Kevin's leadership. So I think it's been a very positive experience. And certainly there are a few people who, and I don't know who they are, but I know there's some people who haven't got vaccinated or who aren't comfortable for a variety of reasons. But I would say we have a large percentage of people who are vaccinated and feel good about it. Does that, Deanna, does that sound accurate?
Yes, I think you hit it spot on. The district, again, along with county announcements, was able to make sure that all staff had immediate access to appointments, including reminders if we found out at the last minute of available appointments, and making sure that communication was as fast and furious out to folks and helping people get to where they needed to do that, and respecting those in their decision if for whatever reason they were unable to or chose not to. So we have a high percentage of our staff who is vaccinated. I'm not sure if we're completely answering your question, Robert.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So actually, specifically, it's about the students. They're, you know, maybe they're paranoia about being vaccinated or not being vaccinated, or their peers not being vaccinated. I know the staff is taking care of themselves very well. It wasn't a question about, is the staff vaccinated? It's about a question of the students, because they're so young and they're not cleared yet to be vaccinated. You know, I have a third grader and a pre-K student, and you know, they're very much, they've learned over the last year and a half, 6 feet, right? Keep distance, you know, protect themselves, mask, the whole deal, right? So when vaccinations roll into the student community population, do you have any feelings of how you would manage that?
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Deanna, go ahead.
Well, I think one of the pieces in terms of, this will be in terms of the discussion points with classroom, this would be something perfect for a community circle conversation in terms of, or classroom reminders around the health and safety protocols that still will be in place. And also some conversation points in classrooms for respecting where different people and different families are in decisions, and respect around that there may be different reasons why individuals are or are not. So this will be something that I'm looking to all these faces on the screen, and Betsy, you're probably going to be, I'm going to be probably sending an email of things that we can start to look at and put in the hands of our staff and our teachers across buildings, so to help navigate these discussions and conversations. Obviously, as a school district, we will not be advocating, we advocate for students' health and safety, but we would not be in the position of policing or setting our classrooms up for judgment on one way or the other.
Got it. Thank you.
And in terms of making appointments or getting appointments for students, as you heard us describing around for staff, the school district at this point, we are not exploring that at this time. You know, that we're always looking at what can we continue to do to advocate further for the health and safety of our entire community. But at this point in time, that's not something that is in place. And again, like I said, just advocating for where everyone is and in both sides of it. Betsy, what were you going to say? And I'm going to look to everyone.
No, you were fine. You answered it really, really well. Thank you.
So Robert, I'll turn it back to you. Did that answer your question? I want to be sure that we get at what you were asking at.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Denise asked a question. Are you tracking how many students are getting vaccinated? And will this data point be used when deciding to allow high school students to return on 4/26? At this point, I don't, and I could be wrong on this, I don't believe that we are tracking that. You know, when considering our events for the end of the year for, you know, seniors and juniors with prom and ball and things like that, I do know that we're going to be testing kids, and I think the only way that they could get out of being tested is if they were able to show proof of having 2 vaccines. I have not seen a survey come out for students though. And Deanna, you might be able to speak to this better than I.
Well, I think some of the questions, a survey for students, no, not at this point, but some of the questions that I'm hearing, and they're fabulous questions, but I would also, I'm looking now to put into the chat the link, because tomorrow for the reopening, we will be responding to questions. Dr. McGowan will be, and I would invite everyone to attend the virtual town hall regarding reopening. And some of the way the questions are moving in this direction tonight may be better suited for tomorrow. I'm not trying to not answer a question this evening, but that could be a really good form, and I would invite you to listen to that information tomorrow night as well.
Good point. And excellent questions, everybody. Thank you for asking them. Anybody else? Okay, well, I'm gonna thank everybody who was a part of this tonight. Thank you all for coming, for asking so many great questions, making us think about the way that we do business here, K-12, and just know that we're here to support you. We're here to support your children. And we're just so grateful to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great night.
Thanks, Betsy.
Thank
You
you.
got it. Thank you.
You, Betsy.